Hello everybody. Today we are going to describe the next important and extensively described subject, that is the inflammation. What is inflammation? If one wants to know, he must go through its definition, and you will find there that it is one of the faculty of the body which respond against external injury. It means it is one of the defense mechanism of the body. Now, if you desire to define this, you may define in the way that the inflammation is a defensive response of the local tissue against external injury, provided the impact of injury is not of such an extent that can destroy the structure at once. This term, inflammation, has been defined in so many ways by so many workers, but I think the most concrete would be this particular, especially for the purpose to recall it in your examination hall, because you know in examination hall how much concise your verse were. That should be better for you. Now, how you can memorize it? It is not just to memorize in the way that likewise in the primary classes. It must be memorized by understanding what is being said within these sentences. Now you can distribute the total definition into two parts. Number one, it is a defensive response of local tissue against external injury. This much description is to some extent sufficient to show your vision about the inflammation. But to complete its sense, as we know about definition, that definition must bear two qualities. Number one, any term, if being defined, it must be defined by using the words as minimum as possible. How minimize you can the definition, it will be more consolidated and more better. But on the other hand, definition also implies that it is expectation from the definition that definition must give as maximum as possible information about that term which is going to be defined by these terms, by these sentences. It means you have to supply the maximum information with the help of or by using minimum words, as minimum as possible. Now here, the first part of the definition is defensive response of local tissue against external injury. It is but natural that if any external injurious substance comes in contact with the body tissue must respond. And for this purpose, a concise, coordinated group of a function is engaged, that is known as defensive mechanism, immunity, and likewise so many things. Here, the local tissue defends or respond that external injury mostly by its cell-mediated immunity. Most of the cells present there, they respond, the nerve respond, and in this way, if any injurious substance comes in contact with the body tissue, the local tissue will respond. This is the first part. But this response is only possible if the impact of injury is not of such an extent that can destroy the structure at once. If the structure is destroyed, it can't respond. If it itself is destroyed, who is going to respond? For the purpose to respond, there must be remaining some life, thus be remaining some power in the tissue or cell which has been injured. You have frequently seen that if a incised wound taken place on your body surface, there is no swelling, no redness. It means these are the features of inflammation that should be discussed later on. But after 18 to 24 hours, that cut end becomes red, started giving pain. It means the inflammatory process is starting at that cut end, because there the impact of injury is leaving behind some viable cell in the neighborhood of its main impact. So, we can say that if the impact of injury is to the level that it is not lethal, rather it is grievous, it means after impact of injury, if the cell may remain responsive, then it will respond in a coordinated way, and that response of local tissue is known as inflammation, and it is described with the features which become able to conclude or describe the inflammation. Now, the first thing is body tissue. We shall discuss further. And the next thing which is important, that is the external injurious substance, injury. Here first to describe that what are the injurious substances capable of producing the inflammatory process. The total substances which can produce inflammation can be grossly divided into two groups. There are certain substances which comes from the non-living group and certain substances which comes from the living. Now, from the non-living, the number one is mechanical, that is the trauma. Most frequent, the traumatic condition results in inflammation. The second, the physical forces like extreme of temperature, either extremely high or extremely low, both are capable to produce inflammation. Electricity, ionizing radiations, again the chemical substances like strong acid, strong alkali. Further, the dead tissue or necrotic tissue. When necrotic tissue remaining behind here, frequently you have been advised that if any abscess is developing, some your well-wisher says that as early as possible this abscess should be drained, otherwise abscess become larger. Why it become larger? Because the tissue which has died within the abscess comes in contact with the neighboring healthy tissue and initiates the inflammatory conditions. Now, certain foreign bodies like ligature, suppose any operation has been done upon your body part, and when the stitch is removed, a slight part of stitch remains in between their tissue. You will find that after some time the area becomes red or giving pus, and it continues until the part of that thread has not been removed from there. Or certain carbon particles, if enters inside the body as a result of injury, as a result of certain gunshot injury, accident, anyhow. So these are the non-living substances which can cause inflammation. Now the second group, the living substances, that are the bacteria, fungi, virus, protozoa, metazoa, these all can produce inflammation. It means body is frequently under exposure of these substances, and so it frequently shows inflammatory process, but on the whole, or after all, that inflammatory process is the defensive mechanism of the body, and it occurs as a result of the activity of the defense mechanism of the body. Now we shall classify the inflammation. The inflammation has been grossly classified into acute, subacute, and chronic inflammation. Some worker also noted certain viral inflammation or allergic inflammation, but after fine discrimination, it becomes clear that these are not the individual variety of inflammation, rather these are a part of the acute inflammation. So, conclusively, inflammation may be classified under acute inflammation, subacute inflammation, and chronic inflammation. Now we shall consider one by one, and firstly we shall undertake the acute inflammation. As the name acute indicates, you must have been taught about the classification of disease under organon, the acute diseases, chronic diseases. Then if you recall the definition which has been given for the acute disease, you may become clear that the diseases which tends to occur suddenly, develops abruptly, and ceases accordingly, either with or without medication, either taking the life of the organism or leaving the organism intact. Likewise, this acute inflammation, in the similar way and to most extent, bears and implies the same meaning. Here it is also to occur suddenly, means when an inflammation is of rapid onset, definite course, and shorter duration. Actually, this definition has been given on the clinical basis, and clinically it has been observed that if any inflammatory process starts and completely removes from the body within a month, those are considered under the acute inflammation. You may very simply estimate this version as if on the your body surface anywhere the redness starts, it is started feeling sore, slightly swelling. Within 2 or 3 days, it shows its nature, and you must be confirmed that an abscess is going to start. After in next 2 days, you will find that area becomes hard. Even after 2 or 3 days, you will find the throbbing pain, and gradually it started growing fade and pink, and ultimately a point appears, that is the dirty or alloys, and you think that pus has been formed. During this development, it will take about 10 or 12 days, and afterward the abscess is discharged, and after discharging, when healing process starts, it will take minimum 8 to 10 days. On the whole, 3 weeks has already been spent, and within the last 1 week, its significance has been removed and the body surface becomes as prior. This is the normal course, and this is the typical example of the acute inflammation in its whole extent, not only inflammatory condition. Now, the most important part of this description is the changes occurring during acute inflammation. This is for both pathological importance as well as because our class is basically pointed towards the examination, so the examination importance must not be ignored. Any description or any study must be based keeping in view the examination and afterward the knowledge, because only examination is also not sufficient here in the medical science, because what you study just at the first day, that comes in practice every day. Thus, for the purpose to describe the changes during the acute inflammation, firstly, we have to subgroup the entire phenomena into two basic parts. Number one, vascular changes, and the second, tissue changes. Again, the vascular changes includes the changes in blood vessels as well as the changes in lymph vessels. Now, if we observe the changes in the blood vessel, a series or a sequence of events will be found, and among them, the first to occur is the initial vasoconstriction. It is but natural characteristic that if any irritant or any injurious substance comes in contact with the body tissue, there must be certain response, and most frequently the response initiates with the action of contraction. Most frequently in the primary school you have experienced this when your teacher no further I have to say, because this is a matter of dispute, but you may understand. It means when the injury comes in contact with the body tissue, initially it produces constriction in the level of vessel. Such happens actually due to the action of irritant directly or reflexly on the blood vessel. But its occurrence depends on the severity of the action, and so this action or this stage is almost transient, that is not frequent or not always to occur. Certainly, if it occurs, it is the first to occur. Now, this initial vasoconstriction is followed by the vasodilatation. Here also, the Newton's law is being proved that every action has its equal and opposite reaction. Not in the same manner, but it looks like that after constriction, vasodilatation may take place, and in most of the instances, this occurs as the first phenomena, because, as I told, the vasoconstriction is transient. It means it is not frequently occurring. It occurs in selective some cases. When it fails to occur, at that time this vasodilatation is the first. And it is important. It occurs in the arterioles, venules, and then in the capillaries. The dilatation of the capillary and venule may be due to direct effect of the irritant, while arteriolar dilatation is mediated through axonic reflex. Now, when the blood vessel dilates, you must think that after dilatation of the blood vessel, it provides way to pass the blood in more volume and accordingly more quickly. Thus, the third stage occurs, that is initial quickening of the blood flow. Although this is also a transient or may be absent, it occurs if certainly happens due to arteriolar dilatation. And now, that is again the definite rule that when the blood flow is quick, it will fill the capillary or venule more than the usual. And we know the flow of fluid inside the body is basically dependent upon the coordinated or pressure gradient inside the body tissue. We know that the pressure within the artery capillary is about 30 to 35 millimeter of mercury, average 32 millimeter. In the tissue space, it is 25 millimeter. In the vein capillary, it is 9 to 12 millimeter, while in the lymphatic, it is 13 millimeter. And this pressure difference allows the fluid to pass from artery capillary to the tissue and further to the venules and the lymphatics. But this definite pattern or this definite rate of flow depends upon a definite and a limited or a certain quota of blood coming through the capillary, artery capillary. Now here the flow is enhanced, quickened. Now the blood may accumulate inside the capillary, but it can't pass in the tissue space accordingly due to the pressure difference. And it causes stagnation of blood inside the capillary, and this stagnation gradually enhances to the level that it causes the next stage, that is slowing of the blood flow. Again, it is also a very important feature upon which the subsequent events lies. The factors operating in slowing of the blood flow may be: number one, the capillary dilatation; second, increased viscosity of the blood; next, pigmentation by the leukocyte; again, change in the epithelial lining of the affected vessels; and ultimately the pressure by the accumulated interstitial fluid. These all factors acts upon the blood vessel on the capillary in the way that the blood flow becomes slow. We know that when the blood is in circulation, the cells remains in the midstream. But when the flow becomes slow, the cells started precipitating on the endothelial lining of the vessel, arteriole, capillary. Thus, forming like a pigmentation of the WBC. Again, the capillary dilates and it allows respectively more fluid to pass. And this causes exudation of the plasma. Again, this exudation also bears certain beneficial effects, like exudation of plasma will flush out the irritant from the tissue, or it will dilute the irritant. Next, it supply nutrition and immune antibodies at the tissue space where the battlefield has been formed. Supply of nutrition and immune antibodies is an essential part of the defense mechanism. Again, when the process reaches to an end and certain destruction, casualty has already been taken place at that time, afterward, it is usual to start the reparative process, and for that purpose the fibrin network formation is essential. That is also is initiated or helped by this exudation of the plasma. And the next, supply of the nutrition to the phagocytic cells. As we observe the pigmentation of the WBC, among them the neutrophil is the phagocytic cell. The next phagocytic cell is the macrophage. Here, the next stage starts immigration of the leukocytes with the blood flow. This neutrophil produces a chink in the blood vessel and passes out to the tissue space, and started phagocytosis and you may say fighting with the inimical agents, and at that time it requires nutrition, and for that nutrition supply the exudation of plasma is responsible. Now the next and most joculous event occurs at last, and that is diapedesis of erythrocyte. What happens? As the leukocytes immigrates through the vessel wall, chinks appears, and before they close, some erythrocyte may escape through that chink. Why I have called it joculous? Because no any apparent purpose of passage of RBC has yet been detected. There may be certain negligible purpose, but mostly it is likely to be said as a nonsense that it passes. But it becomes very senseful when it comes at the time of practical examination, when it has been frequently asked, what do you mean by diapedesis? In this way, the changes in the blood vessel completes, and now we shall undertake the change in the lymph vessel. Here in the lymph, initially there is augmented lymph flow and hyperdrainage. Later on, lymphangitis, lymph thrombus formation, and lymphatic obstructions may supervene. In this way, the changes in vessel is concisely completed, and now which we left behind, the role of tissue, that was the most important. So, in the last but not the least, as a general style of speech, now we shall discuss the tissue changes, and like the vascular changes, these tissue changes may also be divided into two subgroups, that is the change in local tissue cells, and the second, the change in immigrant cells. Now, in the local tissue cell, the chief cell of affected area shows a variety of change depending upon the severity of the irritant, like cells in close vicinity necrosed. Certainly, the site where the impact of the injury has been imposed, निश्चित it will cause respectively more injury, and due to that, the cell of that particular place dies and necrosis supervenes. And the cells in the farthest away may show proliferation or proliferative activity, which are at the distance. They started proliferating for the purpose to defend the condition, and in the way the redness and other changes occurring at that site, which represents that blood is coming and accumulating there for the purpose to fight with the condition. And the next, cell in intermediate location shows various states of degeneration, and in intermediate location, the cells, certain cells are injured to 75%, certain 50%, certain 25%, certain slight, and then the farthest cell is completely escaped from the impact of the injury, and they started a strategy to combat the condition. Now here We know that areolar tissue is one of the tissue that is distributed throughout the body as a packing material. It means at every spot there must be areolar tissue in neighboring, and we know the areolar tissue bears 6 different type of cells, which are, you may say, only for the defensive purpose, as the fibroblast, which produces fibers during the course of repair, the histiocyte, because it is one of the member of the macrophage. So if any grave causative factor comes in contact with the body tissue, the macrophage is the competent cell, and so the histiocyte become active for the purpose to undertake the process of phagocytosis. Next, the giant cells derived from the macrophages, they may show various morphology depending upon the causative factors, and it also shows the phagocytosis. Next, the plasma cell. It is most frequently repeated in your class that plasma cell synthesize gamma globulin, and this gamma globulin act as antibody. Again, the mast cell, they leverage histamine and heparin. We know that histamine, like the substance which is responsible for synaptic mediation, and the heparin, that is the anticoagulant. So as per requirement, they comes into the action. And after that, the tissue ground substance, which helps in combating the condition by increasing the fluidity. Now, the immigrant or the blood-borne cells, the neutrophil, as I told, it will undertake the process of phagocytosis. Eosinophil appears in a later stage during the repair, as well as in the allergic condition or the parasitic inflammation. The basophil produces histamine and heparin, as described earlier, and the lymphocytes, they appear during the repair, where the large lymphocyte also supply the nutrition to the fighting cell, and these are mostly active during the viral infection. And the small lymphocyte has a specific characteristic that in the period of crisis, the small lymphocyte may convert itself into the plasma cell for the purpose to synthesize more and more gamma globulin, as the plasma cell present in the areolar tissue may not be sufficient to produce the sufficient amount of gamma globulin. So, in that time, this small lymphocyte convert itself into the plasma cell and synthesizes gamma globulin for the purpose to synthesize the gamma globulin for the purpose to act as antibody. Now the monocytes, they are also phagocytic, and ultimately the erythrocyte, they undergo destruction. For what matter, that is still unknown. And in this way, the total changes occurring during acute inflammation has been precisely completed. Thank you.